Over the past 3 years, I've had the chance to teach thousands of people about data analytics and data science, whether that's through my daily LinkedIn and Instagram posts, or it's through the weekly YouTube and podcast episodes like this, or through my experience of teaching at MIT, or through my online products at datacareerjumpstart.com. I've learned a whole heck of a lot about being a data career coach, about landing your first data job, what it takes, the data skills, all that good stuff. And in this episode, I'm going to give you my top 5 takeaways from this whole process about what it actually takes to land your first data job. Stay tuned. Here we go.
Welcome to the Data Career Podcast, the podcast that helps aspiring data professionals land their next data job. Here's your host, Avery Smith.
Today's episode is brought to you by my bootcamp, the Data Analytics Accelerator. It is an all-inclusive bootcamp to help you land your first data job. We cover the skills you need to know, the network you need to grow, and of course, the projects you need to create. By the end of the whole entire process, you'll have mastered Excel, SQL, and Tableau, and built 9 different projects on some beautiful portfolios that will impress hiring managers and recruiters. We actually have something pretty special going on right now, if you're listening to this, where I'm going to be doing a live version of the bootcamp. So it's still all the rest of the normal bootcamp. We still have the pre-recorded videos. We still have the go at your own pace. But every week, I'm going to hop on over the next 10 weeks and build a live project with you from the program. I'm also going to be doing a 1-hour live office hour every single week. So it's pretty dang good. If you want more information about it, you can go ahead and click the link in the description down below to register. Pretty exciting times. I'm very excited about it, and I hope to see you guys inside the program. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Data Career Podcast. If you're new here, my name is Avery Smith, and I'm a full-time data career coach, spending my days trying to help you land your data job. Thank you so much for listening. I have some amazing news going on this week. It's absolutely incredible. We're up to 60 reviews on Apple Podcasts and 80 ratings on Spotify Podcasts. So thank you guys so much. If you guys haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. As a reminder, the show is free to everyone as long as you leave that rating or review wherever you're listening, or if you hit subscribe on YouTube. That's what keeps the podcast free and keeps me energized and going. I want to share a quick review that we got on Apple Podcasts this week from JD1G. Amazing name. They left a 5-star review and said, "Inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing and motivating and inspiring stories. I find the content insightful and helpful. Keep it up." So thanks so much, JD1G. Really appreciate it. I also want to tell you guys that we have some really cool upcoming episodes that are going to be awesome. I've been speaking to a lot of guests. We're going to have a real data analytics hiring manager on the show, and she's going to talk through about what her last hiring process. She hired a junior data analyst, why she chose the person she chose, what she liked in some candidates, what she didn't like. So stay tuned for that episode. We're also going to have some graduates of the Data Analytics Accelerator on the show who have landed their data job through my bootcamp. They'll be coming up in upcoming episodes. So we're back to some guest episodes that I'm really excited about, and you should be excited as well. Okay, in today's episode, I wanted to take you back over the last few years and go through my journey teaching data analytics. It's been absolutely incredible. The last 2.5 years, I've pretty much been able to do this near full time. The last 1.5 years has really been full time of just pure teaching. But even before I quit my job at Exxon, I was doing some teaching as well. And so I'll kind of go through my journey as a data analytics teacher and what I have learned teaching you about data analytics. What have I learned? How have I changed as a teacher in order to help serve you better? So just a little bit of a brief history about my data analytics teaching journey, because you guys have probably heard my story about how I went from a chemical lab technician to, a data analyst and then data scientist, and then starting my own data analytics firm and all that good stuff. But not a whole lot of people know the story of how I became a teacher, a career coach. So it actually all started when I was doing undergrad research. When I was doing undergrad research inside the chemical engineering department, I had a really amazing mentor, my professor, Dr. Cody Powell. And we were doing machine learning and cool data stuff with chemical engineering. And so it was pretty cool, like a combo, right? To do chemical engineering and data science and analytics at the same time. And not too many people at the university were really doing that. And so he actually asked me to come in and kind of explain to the other researchers in that organization what I was doing and how I was doing it and what type of, programming was I using, what type of math was I using and stuff like that. So that's probably where the first time I actually publicly started teaching data science and analytics. And that actually continued throughout my job when I worked at VaporSense, the biotech startup. I was making a lot of really cool tools that would help us do some automation in data analysis space, do some dashboards, some reports, some graphs, stuff like that. And I would show my other chemical lab technicians, hey, this is how you use this graph. This is what this is what this chart does. So I was kind of teaching on the job there as well. But my first formal position of teaching data science and analytics happened while I was at Exxon. Similarly, there were some other times where I was teaching colleagues on how to do things in some small groups. But eventually, my boss was like, wow, you like to teach a lot and you're actually pretty good at it. Would you like more of a formal role teaching? And I was like, yeah, I would love that. And so I actually was in charge of an analytics interest group. And so basically what this is a company-wide, I guess it was only really a US-wide organization that I was in charge of. North America, because Canada was involved as well, where we would meet twice a month. And we basically would learn something new about analytics every single month. And so I was in charge of this. Sometimes I was doing the teaching. Sometimes I'd bring in guests and they would be doing the teaching. Not dissimilar to what we do with Data Analytics Accelerator now. Sometimes, I'm teaching a lot of the Data Analytics Accelerator, but sometimes we have guests come do guest lectures and stuff like that. And I started teaching there. And it was awesome because I was teaching engineers and accountants and business development folks. So people who didn't necessarily have data or tech backgrounds, how they could actually use data in their current role. Because that's one thing I really want to emphasize. You do not have to be a data analyst or data scientist to be doing data analytics. If you are solving business problems with the use of data, that's all data analytics entails. And of course, there's some certain ways that we can do it better than others, but I want to be very inclusive in this whole process. And that's my definition of doing data analytics. So that's where I first started teaching, was at Exxon in this, this US or North America role of the lead analytics interest network. And that was really fun. I really enjoyed that. After I quit my job, one of the first things I wanted to do was teach more. And so I actually started a 1-week live data science boot camp. And I was teaching this. So I advertised on my LinkedIn. I think at the time it costs somewhere between $100 and $150. And that got you access to 10 hours of live lectures with me, which is absolutely bonkers because basically it was just really hard to keep up with that. It was a lot of attention and not a whole lot of income coming from it, but I loved it. It was really fun. So we maybe had 20 people. And for 1 week straight, all I did was focus on teaching this bootcamp. So I basically would make the lectures in the morning. I would do 2 hours of lecture live at night. I would send out the slides, the reminders, all that stuff, and then do the same thing the next day. We did that for 5 days in a row. And what did I learn from that? I learned that I didn't really have a method at the time. I knew how I broke into data analytics. I knew how some of my friends broke into data analytics. But I really didn't know that much when I was teaching that. I was teaching them what the importance of data science is, what data science is, how you can get started with it. We started even doing some data science with Python at the time. But this is my first time actually teaching people from scratch consecutively, right? Because, at Exxon, I was teaching people twice a month, but those people were a part of my corporation. We were trying to help them use data with what they were doing. We were familiar with what business unit they were in at Exxon, right? And this was a collection of 20 very awesome people, but I didn't know anything about them, right? I didn't know where they were working. They were all working in different industries. So it was really hard to teach general information to this group. And so was it the best boot camp ever? I mean, it was a pretty good deal for the price and everything like that, but I definitely wasn't my best teaching performance. And I've really grown since then, and one thing I didn't focus on when I did this boot camp was actually getting the job, right? We all love data. We love math. You wouldn't be listening to this podcast if that wasn't the case. But I'm guessing that most of you guys don't do it for fun, right? You probably do it for a career. And that's awesome. I think we should have hobbies outside of work. And I love data. I love doing it for fun sometimes, but I also love playing the new Zelda Tears of the Kingdom game. I love running. I love weightlifting. I love spending time with my newborn daughter, my dog, my wife. I love to golf. I love my extended family. I don't necessarily do data analytics for enjoyment's sake. I do it because it pays the bills, right? And that's fine. It's an amazing career. It's, in my opinion, the best career that there is. But it's okay to realize, hey, this is a career. And so we don't want to be doing data analytics for data analytics' sake, right? We want to do it to land a job. So in that first session, that first boot camp I ran, I actually never even talked about getting a data job. It was all about the skills. But what you've come to know, if you've listened to this podcast before, is what I've learned now is the skills is only about a third of the equation for actually landing your first data job. You not only need the skills, but you also need a network and you also need a portfolio. And that's really important. I didn't even touch on that at all in that first boot camp. But it was a really good experience. I think people really enjoyed it, and I think they learned a lot from it as well. So after that, I was really excited to be more of a teacher. And so I ended up starting Data Career Jumpstart later that year. And I ran a program, a boot camp, some of you guys may have been part of it, called Data Career Jumpstart. It was my flagship program, and boy, oh boy, did I learn a lot doing that. It was basically the ultimate data science boot camp. It's not dissimilar from Data Analytics Accelerator. It's pretty dang similar. In fact, much of the curriculum is the same. But there's one big difference that I realized. At the time, I was teaching people to land like pretty sweet data science positions. We did a really awesome data science project. We were really focused on, okay, here's all the stuff you need to know about machine learning. But people were really struggling to land jobs. And I was like, man, why is that the case? And a lot of the times it was because they weren't getting very far in the program. They weren't making it very far. And I realized that there's actually, when I looked at the people who were landing jobs and what type of jobs they were landing and what the pay was, I realized, man, people are actually landing very sweet jobs that don't require any programming or any machine learning. And I was like, we should probably just focus more on that because that's what's actually getting results. And so in Data Career Jumpstart, we touched on machine learning. We touched on programming heavily with Python. We touched on, how to do predictive analytics extensively. And I came to realize that, you know what? People can learn that on the job. Let's just get people what I call a stepping stone job. Let's get your foot in the door, get the first data title on your resume. And once you get that first data title, life becomes so much easier. Your second job is easier to get. Your third job is easier to get. Your fourth job is easier to get. And you could upskill from there, right? There is so many different things in the data world that you could learn. In fact, I think I saw a stat the other day. It's like 1,460 or something like that. That's how many different data programming tools, softwares, all that good stuff that you could possibly learn on your journey. And it's so much stuff. You will not learn all of that in your lifetime. It's impossible. So stop trying, right? Instead, let's focus on, and we ended up choosing Excel, SQL, and Tableau because those are the three most in-demand data skills that there are. It's proved, backed by data analysis. Shout out to Luke Baruch, who has a really awesome dashboard that shows what the latest requirements are, backed by data, and Dustin Shymick in his data jobs report. Those two reports both say SQL, learn that. Excel, learn that. Tableau, learn that. Now, of course, some jobs are going to require Python, but we don't necessarily need to go for those jobs. And even if we do learn Python, we don't have to master it, right? And so I really learned the importance of let's get people into stepping stone jobs where we can get those jobs quickly in less than 90 days. My LinkedIn tagline right now is I help people land data jobs in 90 days. And a lot of people give me grief. Avery, it's impossible to land a data job in 90 days. It's not, you guys. It's possible. Is it hard? Yeah, it's hard. And it especially is hard if you're going after what I call the castle job. It's like the most beautiful, amazing, you're saving the world with data science job. Those jobs are really cool. Very cool job. Hard to get. Competitive. High barriers. Instead, what I try to do is help my students get low-level jobs, low barrier to entry jobs. They still pay great. They still are remote. They're still flexible. They're still fun. They're still data jobs, but they're not like I'm using neural nets to, solve cancer type jobs. Those are great jobs too, but they're harder to get. And so what I'm really focused on in the Data Analytics Accelerator after, teaching at the boot camp, after doing Data Career Jumpstart, I realized, man, what is actually getting people jobs? What is actually working? What does the data say about landing your first data job? And the data told me, my own personal data said, hey, you got to be focused more on getting that entry-level job. Machine learning is awesome. It's cool. But for your first job, it's not necessary. And so that was one of the biggest lessons I took away is like, man, machine learning is awesome. It takes a while to learn. There's a lot of math. There's a lot of programming that goes into it. But actually, Excel, SQL, Tableau aren't that hard to learn. We can learn those three quickly, get an entry-level job, and then you can learn machine learning on that job, right? You can get paid to learn the rest. And that's what we try to focus on inside the Data Analytics Accelerator now is how do we get you that first job as quickly as possible where you're getting a pay increase, you're getting a flexible lifestyle, you're able to work remotely, those types of things, you're able to enjoy what you do. and you can actually get in a program that's going to pay you to learn whatever you want to learn, web scraping or, predictive analytics or clustering or whatever it is. Get paid to learn on the job at the stepping stone job, and then you'll eventually read the castle. That's what I learned doing Data Career Jumpstart. And then I started working for MIT and teaching data at MIT. I basically was the live professor. So there was actually like MIT professors who did all of the lessons and the lectures. I was just video recordings of them. And I was kind of their mouthpiece. If you had a question, you'd ask me. And what I learned quickly as kind of their mouthpiece was the importance of keeping your material fresh. They record these videos and then they never really change them. And the issue is with data, things are changing so quickly. So actually, when I built the Data Analytics Accelerator, I really focused and built it in a way where I could implement new things quickly. So if new technology came out, we could implement it. If I learned something new about the LinkedIn algorithm, we can add it, right? And that's one thing that was really a struggle with MIT, because it was like, if something new comes out, it was a pain in the butt, months-long process to get it fixed, uploaded, and renew. And now with Data Analytics Accelerator, we do it very quickly. For example, if you're inside the Data Analytics Accelerator, you might know kind of what I'm talking about. One of the reasons, or one of the first things that we'll do in module, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, is start to use SQL. We learn in module 1, it's an introduction. Module 2, we do a data analysis project with Excel. Module 3, we do a data analysis project with Tableau. And then module 4, we start with SQL project. And one of the struggles of using SQL is actually kind of twofold. A lot of online programs will have you use SQL, but they'll load your data for you, and they give you kind of the SQL interface for you to use. And so that's not realistic, because in real life, no one's ever going to just give you the data in SQL. No one's ever going to just give you this magical box that magically works. You have to do some setup on your own. Now, some IT places might be nicer than others and have that built out for you, but it's getting started with SQL is harder than actually the syntax. It's actually just getting the system to use SQL set up. That's actually a big problem. So I don't want that to be a problem at the beginning. And so at the beginning, I give everyone an easy way to use SQL online inside of your browser. You upload your data yourself, but then you're using SQL in your browser. No downloads, no installations, no software, those types of things. It's all browser-based. And the system I was using was such a cool system. It was called bit.io. And unfortunately, it just got bought. And that's what happens in the data world, right? These software companies get bigger and bigger and start buying other ones. So it got bought by Databricks. And they were no longer offering the product that we were using for free. So all of a sudden, I had to change what I was doing, right? Because I was using the latest technology. Latest technology got bought. Now we have to switch what we're doing. So now we're using something called csvfiddle.com or .io. All of you guys can go check it out. That's what we teach inside the Data Analytics Accelerator. It's just basically a browser-based SQL thing. But I had to make that transition on the fly. And it was quick. We did it about 2 weeks, got that done. From when we knew it was about to shut down to finding a new tool, making sure it all worked. So that's one thing that I really tried to do inside the Data Analytics Accelerator that was not at MIT is, are we agile? Can we add new things, take things from the curriculum, give you guys the latest information possible? Because every edge that you have in your data journey is going to be used to your advantage. So the more that you can actually get the latest and greatest, the more we want to give that to you. So that's one of the things that I learned at MIT. Overall, through this process, I've learned a whole heck of a lot. One of the things that I've learned, the biggest lesson I guess I could say, is it's not the most talented people who land the jobs. It's not the smartest people. It's not the highest IQ people. It's not the people, if I gave them a Python assessment or a SQL assessment, they would perform the best. It's not. It's the people who were able to perform technically, but marketed and packaged themselves well. The skills, the S part of the SBN method is just 1/3. You also need the portfolio. You also need the network. It is a combination of all three. I actually attended a coaching conference not too long ago in Austin, Texas, where I got to hear from Ali Abdaal. I don't know if you guys have ever seen or heard from him before. He's a YouTuber. He's actually like the world's leading productivity expert. He has 4.4 million subscribers on YouTube. And he talks about, how to learn, how to be a better person. But he also talks about how to grow on YouTube. And he was giving a lesson to all of us coaches at this conference in Austin about how to grow on YouTube. And he said, you know what? The best YouTubers, people like Mr. Beast, like Mark Rober, they're not in the business of making videos. They're in the business of making thumbnails and amazing titles with a video that merely catches up to their promise. Now, if you've never made a YouTube video before, you're probably like, what the heck, Avery? I don't even know what you're saying. But what Ali Abdallah was saying was the best YouTubers, the best YouTube videos are not necessarily the best videos. They're the best package with a title. They market themselves the best. They have the best thumbnail. They have the best title. That is the most important thing to the YouTube algorithm. And honestly, it's kind of the same for the job hiring algorithm. There's not actually like some greater algorithm that, rules everything in the universe. This is just generally speaking that if you can network your way to the right positions, work with recruiters, work with your old friends, your peers, your coworkers, whoever, to find a position, foot in the door, that's going to be well for you. If you can position yourself to look good, you have a good resume, you have a good LinkedIn profile, you have a portfolio with lots of projects, you look good, you're like, wow, that person's impressive. It's going to serve you well. And that's basically what I've learned is there is not a direct correlation to how skilled you are to how easily you land a job. There is a little bit of a correlation, but it is not that strong. Instead, your packaging really matters. And so I want to leave that thought with you is how are you packaging yourself? Do you have the right network? Do you have the right projects? Do you have the right skills? Because you really need all three to land that first data job. If you're not sure where the best place to get all three of those is, I would love to invite you to check out the Data Analytics Accelerator. It is my 10-week bootcamp that teaches you the skills, the project, and the networking necessary to land your first data job. If you're listening to this in the month of June, we have something very special going on where we're doing a live version of this. So over the next 10 weeks, I'm going to be meeting with you guys live to actually build the projects, answer any questions you have while we're building the projects together live. And then I'll also be doing an office hour where I'll answer any questions that you have about projects, portfolios, skills, networking, whatever. It's all open and I'm happy to answer. You can learn more about the Data Analytics Accelerator by clicking the link in the description down below. I hope to see you guys there. The live starts on Monday, June 26th, 2023, and I hope that you guys will be part of it. Have a great week, everyone.